There we go. Okay. There we go. Rewind. Okay. Welcome everyone. Property Committee meeting, August 11th, 2026. We'll call to order and I need an approval of the agenda. Richard, Linda, thank you. Any additions and or changes? Rose?
No.
None? Okay. Do we have any declaration of peculiar interest? Hearing none.
Oh.
Approval of minutes, the last meeting of June 9th, 2026. I have a motion for that.
I'll give you that, John.
Thanks, Rose. Second for that? Richard, thank you. Comments, questions? Hearing none. Any opposed? Carried. We have no delegations tonight, so we can move on to old business. Item A is a report on BYOB event organizer. And I have a motion to bring that to the table for questions, comments. Linda, second for that?
I'll second it.
Okay, thanks, Rose. Comments, questions? Anybody care to start? No. Dale, do I see you raising your hand? No?
I said, Mr. Chair, I'd like to speak.
Oh, Dale, we can't hear you.
Can't hear you.
Is it?
Go ahead.
Go ahead, okay. Anyone else?
I'll speak to that, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Rose. You have the floor.
Okay, just briefly. Number one, I don't like. I feel a lot of time was wasted with staff to have to look after all the issues and everything on this, because the bottom line is there is no control at all of who is drinking and who and how much they're drinking. And the question I have is, if there's an accident on the property, which is our property, and I think we're going to get sued to kingdom come on that, and not just the township, but also every one of us councillors. So I'm not in favor of it, haven't been from day one. And you know, there's groups out there that sell the alcohol. They're the ones that are trying to make money, and they have control over the situation. And that's my only comment on the whole thing.
Richard?
Well, I'm very much like Rose. We've had a system that works. Not as good as we'd like it sometimes, but it's better than an open bar like this one seems to be. So I just don't see a need for it, and I also think it's asking for more problems than we already have.
I'm back on, John.
Oh, okay, Dale.
You can hear me?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. If you're looking at municipal events, name them. Bluegrass in the Country for the Special Olympics. They haven't shown any interest in having alcohol. Pearson Cup, they have alcohol, but why would they be letting people come in with their booze when they're making their fundraising partly with their alcohol sales? Same with the Lions Club. There's no way we would invite people in bringing their booze into our event. And our fourth event is the children's ball, the youth ball. Well, there's no alcohol involved. So what other community events would we consider allowing people to bring their booze into? None, right? So I'm totally against our municipality having people bring their own booze. How's it going to be policed? In our Lions Club, we never see anybody from the alcohol gaming. We never see somebody. So we're self-policing ourselves. The municipality and maintenance, they're not policing our Lions Club event. We're policing ourselves. Are we going to ask these people bringing their booze into the park to police themselves? Yeah, well, that's exactly what will happen. They'll be policing themselves. Do they have smart serve? I don't think so. All the rest of the events that are serving alcohol, everybody who's serving has to have their smart serve certificate. I'd like to know these people who are coming to a park with their alcohol, do they have it? And are they selling alcohol? That's another question. If they're coming into a park with their booze, if there's an organizer for this alcohol certificate, somebody has to apply for a permit, right? Okay, are they selling it? Okay, enough said.
Linda, thanks.
Under the,
Chair, okay.
Go.
under the input from residents and taxpayers page, it is pointed out that a municipality is not required to adopt a tailgating bylaw. And further on, it says that it gives the municipalities an option to permit it, but it is not mandatory. And I wondered if we ever did go for that kind of action, who would review each application and decide whether they could or whether they couldn't? Are we as a council going to do it? Or is we going to give this job to Rose? So one more things that she has to be responsible for? Who does that?
Thank you, Linda. Brian? Councilor Mitchell?
Yes, just a couple of short comments on that. I agree with Dale too. Being a member of a Lions Club, we went through something similar to this when we first started Ride Manitoulin, and it did not work out well. In fact, it was a few sleepless nights because of the side drinking, because under the current law, that if you set up a tent in a like it was Ride Manitoulin, if you slept a weekend in a tent, that becomes your residence, and you can drink within 10 feet of your residence. So that was, we did have one incident, and it was not very good for us. There was a few sleepless nights because we had an accident, a motorcycle accident. They left the venue, but unfortunately for us, we were able to prove that they weren't drinking at our licensed event. They were actually drinking at a tent, so it worked out okay. Unfortunately, the fellow was pretty banged up, but other than that, but so this sort of goes down the same lane as who's watching the hen house or the chicken house or whatever, and I would not be interested in having anything to do with this. So, as a counselor or as a member of a Lions Club, so.
Okay, thank you. Rose, how do we handle this? And as far as this has to be a motion to accept or not?
Well, right now we can accept, yeah, we'll accept the report. But the council, I'll have to look into the wording again. We can refuse to,
Accept.
you refuse to set a policy. But it has to be, I believe, a council motion. I'll have to confirm the wording that we
Okay.
need to use for that.
So first of all, can I have a motion to accept the report? Richard? Linda, thank you. So second, I'm not sure how this is.
I don't think, Mr. Chairman, we need to do a motion. We just accept the report. We don't accept the tailgating policy and forget about it.
And that's the end of it.
It's all that there is to be done with it.
Yeah, because that's just for clarity, the next step would be council's direction of staff to develop a tailgating policy
That's true.
as an addition to the current alcohol policy.
So,
And I believe we have to do, like I said, I'd have to confirm the wording for sure.
There has to be a resolution
Yeah,
that
we have to-
passes, that
yeah.
we do not accept.
Yeah.
We will not be offering BYOB tailgating, and it's not part of our alcohol policy.
would this be a direction to staff to come back with the wording for?
Yeah. You can direct staff to come back with the wording for.
We don't really need anything more.
I don't think
We've
we
got
do.
the report.
Yeah.
We've got the report. We've decided collectively, pretty much, to not proceed with it, so we don't accept.
I think, yeah, just
The
accept the
policy.
report, then they'll go back to council for council discussion, and at that time, I guess if council wants to. Next step, or just, that's it.
That's it. Good. So at council, we could do that.
Yeah.
Does that make sense, Richard? At the next council meeting? Or maybe not this one coming up, but on Thursday, but maybe a couple of weeks from now.
I still don't think it's necessary, but I think Rocham should follow up with Ruth or Denise just to make sure.
Okay, all right. Okay, so
Hello.
Stephen.
onwards, under old business, item B, Mindemoya Hall lift replacement. We have some information here that I think is a. And I think I'll let Dave speak to the lift itself. If that's all right with Dave, we're gonna ask you about that.
No, that's fine. I'll try and summarize the report as well as possible. So in 2018, I believe, the original lift was decommissioned. Or not decommissioned, it was tagged out by TSSA at the Mindemoya Hall. And that was due to multiple malfunctions. The company at the time was Gravanta. And they could not provide any more maintenance. It was becoming very expensive to the municipality. So at that time, it was basically suspended. There was no alternative solution at the time. There was no other retrofit or design or maintenance, but basically a full removal and going with a different type of lift system. When I started diving more deep last fall into the lift at the Mindemoya Hall, just to get myself familiar with some of the backstory history, because we're always trying to explore options for accessibility upgrades. The Friends of the Mindemoya Old School had the same lift. And they also were doing some investigations, and I had a chat with one of the members there. And it was determined there was another company called Severia who had bought out Gravanta and bought out all their business, and there was new technology and new retrofit options available. In 2023, 2024, there was a report presented by staff to council. There was a discussion. They wanted to see what we could do for accessibility. At that time, this council discussed the idea of potentially putting in an elevator or a lift system at some point. We had an HVAC report that was done by Tulloch Engineering to determine that the furnace system was coming to the end of its life. It's a boiler, oil boiler. And so we had design specs. Council picked out an option for 4 individual furnaces with air conditioning. And in order to do that and do the multiple phases, step 1 would be design elements to be able to build individual rooms for those furnaces, a hydro upgrade to accommodate those furnaces, and then a hydro upgrade to accommodate a new lift or elevator. Since that time, we've been able to find a resolution or an option in the interim to be able to provide accessibility to that hall, and that's by repurposing the existing frame and using the hydro that's already in the hall. And Severia would basically repurpose some of the pieces of that equipment and basically be able to have the lift operation, with a new platform, new controls, new buttons. For a cost of about $72,000. So it's a lot better of a solution. It's not $1 million for an elevator. Now moving forward, there still is the requirement, if council decides to go with this lift repair in the interim, there still is the future cost of the accessibility upgrades. We have to have a proper accessible bathroom, the proper furnaces, and potentially a hydro upgrade to be able to meet those furnaces. But it would not be, an 800 or 600 amp service, a 400 amp service, which is really different compared to the original understanding we had back in 2024. So in light of new information, staff were directed to basically cost out and see what we can get for a lift in the interim to be able to find a solution to meet accessibility in that space. Now, that lift would be able to meet both the main floor and the lower floor, and be able to have access to all parts of the building. We do have a bathroom on the main floor that would meet the requirements for accessibility in the interim. So this is a solution that could work for the community, and it's not overly expensive. Talking to Severia, they anticipate that if committee did want to move forward with this project now and find money in the budget, because it's an unbudgeted item, potentially 6 to 8 weeks to install. We could have it up and running before Christmas.
Can I have a motion to receive this report? Richard?
I'll second it.
Okay, Linda beat you there, Rose. Questions, comments? Richard?
Well, I wanna commend staff very thoroughly that you did your research, went back and looked at bringing it from $1 million to 80 or 70 something is just phenomenal. So I certainly thank you and appreciate your work in doing it. The idea of 70 something thousand is doable, certainly within next year's budget. I don't know that we can do it this year, but it's there. And I did see where your report indicated that we didn't have to commit to it right now, and we could proceed to move on with it next year.
Rose?
Just a question, Dave.
Yes.
So to get an elevator and everything in, what are we looking at? 5 years if we get enough money for that? 6 years, 7? Yeah.
Yeah, so I met with the treasurer because I was kind of curious to see where we currently stand on the project. And it seems to be by no fault of anybody, it's just the reality is we do have a very limited budget. And so this project tends to be deferred, and anytime there's a little bit of money left over in reserve, it's been allocated to other projects. So we don't actually have a reserve right now in the hall to be able to do any of the furnace work or elevator work or the requirements that are needed. Now, the hope is that is something we're going to continue moving forward to do. But yeah, in the interim, the elevator would at least solve part of the issue we're having with accessibility. And we do get a lot of requests for bookings in that facility, and because I got to tell them it's not completely compliant and not accessible, we lose out on a lot of opportunities for Special Olympics events, functions, that sort of stuff, right?
Linda, do you have a comment?
I hope that answered your question.
So Dave, with this system and the old track,
He's working
how
now.
are you going to manage the operation? Like, I think what has happened in the past is that people would come in there, they didn't know what button to push, and they pushed a half a dozen and it broke down. So are you going to have, I guess what I'm trying to ask is, are you going to have a staff person there every time you?
No. What I would do is I would meet with the core group of people that would normally be using that space for that function. It's the newer system actually has a lot of the controls built onto the lift itself now. With the old system, it was a button on the upper floor and a button on the lower floor and a call button. You had to put 2 keys in. It's becoming more modern and a lot easier to operate. And obviously everything comes with learning experience, but it is newer technology. So we've come so far from the old system. More sophisticated sensors, more safety systems. Obviously with any elevated platform, whether it's in the church or whether it's in the old school, it does require maintenance programs. You're still looking at 4 inspections a year. That's to meet TSSA requirements. So obviously with that, but it is a modern lift. Like we're years in advance of the technology now.
And it would carry
It would carry a
heavy
full
person
size, yeah.
and a full-size electric wheelchair.
It would carry a full size power chair, yeah.
Yeah, thanks.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, Rose?
sorry, I got cut out and I had a question for Dave, and I don't know if he answered or heard me, but can I ask it, Dave, you the question again?
Sure, go ahead.
Okay, so in your budget, is there money that you haven't spent that you're not going to be spending this year?
So when we do get into the arena report, we actually had way less expenses at Mindemoya because a lot of it was done in-house. So, and I wasn't required to re-sandblast and paint all the main columns and beams. So yes, we would be able to find money in the budget left over from the structural repairs of Mindemoya Improv. But I would say that'd be up to Adam to figure out those numbers completely.
Okay, so so then my suggestion is that Adam has magical fingers to find money, and I would like to see have done this year and not put in the budget for next year, but actually do it this year. And I think, Brian, would you not agree?
Oh, 100%. I agree. If we can find money for other things, I'm sure we can find $80,000 to get this job or this project finished before the end of the year.
Good.
I'm
So
on board for that. So
I like to make a motion that we have it done this year.
Okay,
I have a question too, Mr. Chair.
okay, Councilor Stevens first there.
Motion, yeah.
Derek, you had your hand up?
Yeah. I mean, kudos to Dave for actually finding a company that can actually repurpose that old
Yeah.
equipment.
Thanks.
Because this is where this issue's gotten lost for years in hydro repairs and furnaces and everything else, and it just keeps getting put off. I do caution though, or I am a little cautious of trying to find money in this year's budget to be able to do this project. But anyway, most of my questions were answered.
Okay.
True.
I have a question for Dave.
Yeah, go ahead, Dale.
Hi, Dave. Yeah, is there a possibility of saving money if Friends of the Old School are using Savaria and we are also of doing the project at the same time?
I don't know the timeline that the Friends of the Old School have locked in their contract. I know Severia was their choice. But by all means, I can reach out at the operational level and ask, and any chance we can to save on, service calls or installation timelines. I'm not sure how far in the project the Old School is right now.
Right.
But I know, like for us here at the Mindemoya Hall, like as soon as we get that lift in, I could start renting. To the Special Olympics call today, they've had to postpone their baseball tournament because we don't have a lift again, right? So they're gonna have a fun day outside. They're doing it for one day. And historically, they've been wanting to host the Special Olympics ball tournament in August every year. The last couple of years, they've traveled to the North Bay, but that's becoming very cost prohibitive. So, as a solution for even our own Special Olympics team here, having lift, we can have a ball tournament in a couple weekends from now, right? So there's nothing worse than saying the first year we don't have it, So.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm okay with.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah, I'm okay with going ahead. It's just that if there was a possibility of saving some money if two projects were getting done at the same time. The other question, Dave, is I realize that there's $3,000 difference. How much difference is the infrastructure, the equipment on the two? And you did have a reasoning for using Savaria, even though they were $3,000 more. So my question is maybe an explanation why we would spend the extra $3,000.
So unfortunately, the quotes were not attached to the document. The first reason is when you use single source contracting and single source providers and the company that manufactures and makes the equipment, there's a lot more guarantees. When you're going third party, you don't necessarily know if the reputation is not there, right? Savaria is a very big company, and they have a high reputation and a quality name. That alone itself is, I would not buy aftermarket Kubota parts for a Kubota lawnmower. I'm going to buy the best to make sure the equipment lasts. They're a subcontractor. They're a secondary company that buys from Savaria and they do installations. But when you have Savaria doing the work for you, it's a reputable name. You would have a contract with them directly, and it's a little more money, but you're getting quality. You're not getting secondhand.
Okay.
And I don't know if the secondary quote is going to collect pieces and put together something, and whatever they find, where Severia is a single source, single shop, they're buying it brand new from, it's theirs.
Yeah, I didn't understand that the state was a third party and just buying from Severia.
Correct.
Okay,
Yeah,
sounds good. Thanks, Dave.
no problem, Dale.
Thanks, Dale. Richard, you had a question?
Yeah, just as an extension to what Dale said, I did see some, information from the old school. And they are intending to refurbish theirs, the same, and it was the same unit as we have in the hall. So there's bound to be some savings if we could work together there. I was also out to Gore Bay, where they have put in a side elevator or lift in their hall, which is much the same as ours with 2 levels. And they worked it there that night 2 or 3 times and didn't have to have anybody there. The person was able to get on and off and operate it. So hopefully it will work similar to what you've explained, that Dave.
Yeah, it's a stair chair lift, so it's using the frame of the stairs, but it's designed, so, well, we'll have maybe forward off to council, the rest of the pack, somehow get attached, but I mean, maybe find you guys a link to the company and show you, there's a video, it's actually a platform that folds up, so it's close to it doesn't affect like accessibility, people walk around, but then it falls down with the bar and the controls are all there, and you can put your power chair, your wheelchair, or even your stroller with the mom and child if you need to, and hit the button and it carries up both floors, so it's quite a sophisticated system.
Any other questions?
I will second Rose's motion, and find the funds.
Okay.
May I speak?
One-
This is Adam. There are 2 obvious spots where we might be able to find some money. First we have found the closure of the Minnemoya landfill. We budgeted $100,000 for. I haven't heard a peep about that all year. I'm not sure whether there's plans to do anything with that $100,000 right now. The second is that we budgeted for $200,000 to be put towards the boardwalk. If we reduce that by $100,000 and only put $100,000 towards the boardwalk this year, that would give you your other $100,000. Now, we may also be able to qualify for some type of accessible grant money somewhere. I haven't looked into it. That's not my bailiwick. But if we can tie into some type of funding source that would help with accessibility, maybe we don't have to spend the whole 80 either.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, Rose.
I just would like to say, Adam, you are a magician. So thank you for that. And it's a go, and it'll be done this year. I think it's totally awesome.
So any opposed to the motion brought by Rose, seconded by Linda?
No, but John, I
Yes.
still would like us to maybe be in consultation with the Friends of the Old School, see where their timeline is, talk to Severia, see what kind of savings we might make if they're going to do 2 projects at the same time. So I do not want to close that door.
Yeah, no, staff will oblige that counselor, not a problem. I'll reach out to Ms. McAllister and find out what to do.
Is that something that can be done before next council meeting?
I could probably make the phone call tomorrow.
Okay, would that be suffice? Dale, we have council meeting coming up.
Yeah, that would be just fine. Thank you.
Any other questions?
I'm not opposed to it. I just really caution about taking money out of other projects.
Yeah.
If we have a project that isn't using any money this year, then that's fine. But pulling something out of something like the Providence Bay Boardwalk, that I'm not in favor
of. Duly noted. I think that'll be Adam that can come back to us with some numbers and some direction. So. Any other questions? Any opposed?
This is always going to be a rob from Peter to pay Paul scenario. So every time you are thinking about replacing a capital project, one of them's coming off the books. So the question is going to be, which one do we want to take off the books?
Okay. Anyone else?
I just don't, Mr. Chair, I just don't want to see this delayed any longer. It's long overdue, and at least I want to see that. I agree with Dale about um, keeping in contact with the old friends of the old school, but I don't want to see a delay in our project because it doesn't fit in with their schedule. So I guess maybe I'm being stingy that way, but this project is long overdue.
Mr. Chair?
Any opposed? Oh, here we go. Rose?
Yeah,
Or-
Brian nailed it. Thank you, Brian. I agree with you 100%.
Thanks, Rose. Anyone else? Motion's carried. Thank you. So we'll hear more at the council. That'll move it to Rose to council. And there definitely will be some more questions and answers here. Okay, thank you. On to new business, item number 7. We have a surplus truck. I think the description was given, and what we want to do. So can I have a motion to receive the report? On Sir Richard?
So,
Derek, thank you. Questions, comments?
One
None?
comment,
Yeah.
I just asked Dave, how much mileage is on the 2017?
117,000 kilometers.
Okay, and it's going to
Does
take
that
about
help?
10,000.
Yeah, it doesn't have a lot of mileage. What's happened is, and we've changed our maintenance program. We now undercoat and underspray all the fleet as of this year, because we're noticing that we're getting a lot of salt and rust. That was one of the original trucks that was never undercoated originally when it was purchased. And what's happening is the rocker panels and the corner box guards have all rotted out, and it requires cutting out and re-welding all new material. The price tag was anywhere between $6,000 to $8,000 just for that alone, plus needs wheel bearings, brakes, tires. It needs a lot of maintenance, so it's just cost prohibitive at this point.
I guess the only other question, Dave, is I see a minimum sale price of 5,000 with used vehicles, even though they need $10,000 repair. I think 5 is pretty low. I think used trucks, regardless of what they're like, and even with that mileage, I wouldn't want to see it go for $5,000. I think there's a lot of trucks out there, just the same situation, go a lot higher than that. Just my comment.
Mr. Chair, if I can provide clarity. Historically, staff have never provided a recommended amount for a surplus vehicle. We have seen vehicles go as low as $300. So just the condition, the motor's in good shape. There's a lot of good parts on the vehicle itself, but the body work alone, like the extra work, just the year of the vehicle is 2017, right? So historically, most of our vehicles are 75,000 kilometers. They get transferred from the roads department to the maintenance department. We run them another 50,000 kilometers, basically run the tires right off them when they're done. And the surplus, basically worth not anything. The hope originally was that this one would be in good enough shape to at least get a bylaw vehicle for the interim for the summer, just because there's a lot of bylaw calls, but it's not, it's beyond its asset management cycle, and it's not a good idea, so.
Okay.
But yes, committee can put whatever amount they recommend. Staff recommended minimum 5 because it's worth something, but it's definitely not worth 0. It's not worth $300.
I guess the only thing you could do is ask either Macquarie's or even Wayne. They might give you an idea of what that might sell for, and you might be surprised. Maybe it would be 75, 8, who knows? But I guess we're just guessing at a minimum price of 5,000, aren't we?
That's correct. Yeah.
Yeah, it might pay to make a phone call to Macquarie and just see what they might recommend that sale price would be.
Derek?
I think this is triggering an underlying problem with me. If we have a vehicle in our fleet that needs this much work done to it, tires, wheel bearings, the whole 9 yards, It sounds like a maintenance issue to me. I always drive used vehicles, I buy them when they're this old. And if it was in that bad a shape, I wouldn't even buy it. It's only got 100 and some thousand on it, that's not even broke in for a good used vehicle. So I'm wondering if we have a little bit of a maintenance problem here, if a vehicle's been allowed to get in this particular shape.
Yeah, there was, in the past, there was an issue with the maintenance program. But that's been rectified and changed. There's now an asset management cycle, planning, and oil spraying, because it was never done before. And that is, we've noticed a huge difference in the 3 or newer vehicles, like we have a 2019, a 2023, a 2024. And the vehicles prior to that had never been oil sprayed. It just wasn't part of wasn't budgeted, you know, we never even budgeted winter tires in the past. We always run an all-season tire. And we run the issues where, you know, vehicles have the risk of maybe sliding into a ditch in the winter. That's changed. I budget now for winter tires. It's part of my maintenance plan. So the guys, when they're on the road traveling to open hauls and check facilities and move snow, the vehicles have good tires, you know, proper brakes. And I now do an annual inspection with the local garage. They do a full top to bottom inspection. And we check everything, right down to checking fluids, oils, to make sure that they're sound and safe, because we cannot risk having an accident with one of our municipal trucks with one of our guys in it. It's not worth the liability. And I won't sleep on that knowing the vehicle's not being maintained. So yeah, moving forward, we've changed our whole strategy, but that truck never was undersprayed. It never had a maintenance plan. It was just driven, and that we're working to fix that.
Because that's what I say, I see another life problem.
Yeah, no, there's been a lot of changes in the last year, simply to the maintenance program of the fleet and the parks and playground equipment.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I might-
Mr. Chair,
Yes,
by this report here, it was said that this truck here was slated to go to bylaw. But it's not going there. So now what is bylaw doing?
Well, they've always historically bylaws shared with the chief building official.
Okay, but there's no intention right now to buy another vehicle to replace this vehicle?
And not in this budget year. I would expect to see something in the 2027 budget year for bylaw.
So that's gonna cost us $100,000, or I should say, $80,000 then, if we purchase a new vehicle. But for $10,000, and I'm just off the cuff right now. So for $10,000, would we get a good certified truck with, fairly low mileage on it? I just wonder for next year's budget, should we not be looking at refurbishing this truck? And it would save the municipality, $60,000 or $70,000. So I'm not being stingy, but I'm just thinking this way too also. So save $1. So
If I may, council?
yeah.
The general idea would be to normally buy a new vehicle for roads, have roads pass a vehicle down to maintenance, have maintenance pass a vehicle down to bylaw. In this case, bylaw as opposed to chief building official. So the idea would be in the 2027 budget year to add another vehicle as part of the rotation that we normally would do.
anyone else? Richard?
Well, when we started upgrading our vehicle fleet, we soon came to the realization, Mr. Chairman, that putting good money into old equipment just left old equipment getting older. And we have worked a fairly progressive process in getting new vehicles into our fleet. So I agree with the policy that they're doing here to let this 10-year-old one move on.
Just give you an example. So we purchased the 2 Chevy Silverados in 2025. At the same time, the difference in mileage between the maintenance department and the roads department is almost double. So historically, because of all the road patrols you're doing through the winter, right? All the road patrols and doing patrolling the roads and everything. So historically, what would happen is when the roads department's vehicle hits 75,000 kilometers, it's about 3 years is a timeline. We would extend that life of that vehicle from 3 years to about 8 years. Maximum life is 10. So the 2025 truck that was purchased replaced the 2013 that we had inherited from the roads department, and we run an extra, almost 10 years out of that vehicle. right? So there is an asset management and life cycle planning that we maximize the vehicle for each department to its best use. And then when it gets to a point where it's beyond regular maintenance, regular just tires, brakes, wheel bearings, regular maintenance, and we start to get into some body work, we get to a point where it's not worth it and we surplus it. That's part of our asset management cycle planning. And that's where we're at right now.
Okay.
This one actually wasn't even part of the original schedule or something. It was kind of weird when it was purchased. It was before my time. But yeah,
Okay.
since then we've moved out 4 surplus vehicles and replaced them over the 6 years I've been here. Just the cycle as they change, right?
Rose, you need a motion for declaration of surplus?
Correct.
Okay. Can I have a motion to declare this particular vehicle with it as surplus so that we can move it on and off our course?
Yeah, so moved.
Is committee happy with the minimum $5,000 closed bid? It's a closed bid process.
Yeah,
It is 10 years old.
Correct, it's 10 years old, yeah.
Yeah. Do I have a second for that?
I'll second
Richard,
that.
thank you. Okay.
Okay.
Richard did, put his hand up earlier, Rose, so, anyhow. So now we get into, the new business. We have 2 reports and we're gonna handle them individually, of course. Telic inspection report, Mindemoy Arena, I'm gonna have Dave speak to this. And then, can I have a motion to accept the report?
You want to accept it now?
We can, or we'll wait till the report is done. From Dave, you wanna wait? We'll wait.
I'd rather have the synopsis.
Okay.
All right, go forward.
All right, so this, council, I hope has had a chance to review both these documents. Okay,
Mhm.
so I have the, privilege to work with Tulloch directly on this, right down to securing the lift. We started with removing the lowy ceilings in April, to start opening up the canopy and the building elements for inspection. So upon the inspection, we went with, basically with Mindemoya, we have 14 lines of inspection that Jeff Allen completed with me. And if you look at the report, it goes line by line, structure by structure, column by column, beam by beam. And it literally was, and the report was designed in a way that we could take this document and we could continue to move forward with ongoing planned maintenance and repairs to the existing structure. So we started with the structural elements. So we looked at all the, any latent movements. We looked at all the hardware, all the bolts. We started identifying any rust spots, and we took orange flagging tape and yellow flagging tape, and we identified all the spots that were critical in caution, and all the spots that could be looked at, could be maintained. What we determined was that in Mindemoy, the biggest issue actually was the footings needed a lot of cement work. There's actually spacings, and there was a lot of settling over the years. So we did also, they identified in the report cement work was needed. So all the cement work has been completed. In the report, they identified that the steel reinforcing arches and steel bracing required the hardware to be retightened and torqued. That was completed. They identified that there was sections that the rust had come through the primer. There's corrosion, so that was all wire wheels, primed and repainted. I'll use an example here. We'll look at page 16, figure 14. If you look here on column 2W1. Look at the size of gap in the arch plate. It's quite extensive. So we had to create a form and mix preset concrete and basically repack and level that. And that is allowing now to have that column now actually sitting on the concrete and not be floating on the bolt. So that was a big improvement. If you look here on page 19, figure 19. So we have top coat failed to adhere to primer, typical. So when we originally started this first inspection in 2018, we never removed the lowy ceiling. And so Tulloch Engineering did basically a low-level preliminary inspection. They opened up some of the sections of the lowy ceiling, and just from distance from what they seen, it appeared as though a lot of the paint and the primer had actually failed and let go from all the steel structure. Until we actually were able to go up nice and close and review and actually take a hammer and take a wire wheel and actually check all the spots that you see the top coat peeling. The primer is still intact. So there was no need after this thorough inspection, to complete a full sandblasting and repaint and recoat of all the steel structures and columns. So that was big savings to the municipality right there. That was something we determined by removing that low ceiling and being able to go in with the lift, get right in and actually physically touch. And so what we did is we identified these places that had the top coat that had failed with orange flags. Staff went in afterwards with the lift. We took a wire wheel and a brush and we primed and repainted them. So now there's any of the most common areas that we notice the most flaking of paint. We've done some preventative maintenance to try and stop any potential corrosion from hitting that primer plate, right? If you look here below figure 20, there's a loose bolt tie block. So there's multiple sections. You can just take your hand and just spin the bolt, where just the building over time is settled, wood dries out, right? And so the hardware just had to be refastened. So we've done that. So right now in its current condition, we have all brand new sag rods holding up the lights. All the concrete work has been completed. Any bare metal has been primed and painted. Any sections of steel that have had loose flaky paint has been wire wheeled and painted. And now we're at a point where we are just monitoring the existing structure. The structure is sound. And we are on schedule to have the low east ceiling reinstalled the last week of September in that building. All the requirements to meet this project in that building are now complete.
Richard.
Yeah, Dale here. John?
Richard was,
Okay.
Richard,
Dave, I again commend you for taking the time and the effort to look at this more closely rather than close up the box and throw out the machine with everything that was in it, because that was the story that we were getting at some point that wasn't worth fixing. Well, we put in a wall that solved that problem. We put in inspection here that's indicated, and it's quite clear that it remains structurally sound and will continue to give satisfactory service for many years. I think that says it all. So thank you.
thank you, Richard. Dale?
Yeah, I just wanted to say thank you, Dave, and your team, the maintenance crew, for really proactively going ahead and doing all this. And tonight we hear that pretty well all the work has been done ahead of time, and that's great. Great for both arenas. You know, that's yeah, I really feel good that our two arenas probably will be lasting for quite a few years yet, and because we may not be able to afford anything other than our two arenas. Thanks, Dave.
Dave, in the past, there's been problems with the structural soundness where the Zamboni room is and where it meets. Did they inspect that?
So what I've done, so this is the initial report on the existing columns and beams. I've actually asked them, because we had left money in the structural. They're actually gonna come back with another report for a second look at the east and west side roof lines. So those are 2x10 plate on flat, and they're double hangers. And so we looked at options to try and extend the snow loading, because we are basically at maximum, right? We have to still right now in the current state, because the building design, if the snow exceeds 4 feet, we have to remove the snow. So last year maintenance was on a schedule, once a week we went with a snow rake, pull as much snow off. Obviously you have those late or early January thaws where you get some ice there, or spring thaws. You get to a point where you have to elevate the level of risk to the use of the building. When there's nobody in the building, there's no risk. The ice can stay there, it will slide off. If there's people in the building, that's when it becomes critical. Last year, near the middle of March, and the March minor hockey season was over, there was nobody occupying the building. There was some ice overhanging on the west side. It was allowed to hang. On the east side, we were monitoring because there's risk of it coming down in the parking lot. So, next year we're gonna be a little more proactive with maybe some barricades. It already does say watch for falling ice, but the snow loading itself on those two walls, we're looking at putting in an LVLB full length. And we're hopefully gonna have that information as soon as possible. If the low east ceiling is put in, there still is the ability to access and put the LVB in. We would just internally, maintenance just work 1 second. We'd have to put up a temporary wall, knee brace, right? Take the 2x10s out, put an LVLB in, and just keep working. That would extend the structure for the snow loading. But right now, we've met the requirements of the current code. For the sort of the steel work that was done in the eighties. 1982 is when Sprite Associates did that add-on and those steel elements and columns. So we're under the code compliant for up to that date. Any new building elements or building changes, yeah, we would go with like an LVL laminated beam, just because it's gonna help with the structure.
Okay.
So one thing that was discussed with the engineer was if the municipality ever decides to renovate on the west side, because we have that parking lot and that property now, there's no point putting LVL beams, wait. And if you were to do an addition, that's when you would go and restructure, that whole roof line would change, similar to Providence Bay where the roof line changes, you're building out. So at that point, you wouldn't bother putting in any, you would just keep monitoring moving snow. And then when you change any potential renovations there, that's when you change the roof line and rebuild that structure. That would be like the most logical next move, right?
Yeah.
In the interim, if council decides that they don't want to go that way, that is a strategy that we do if we want to try and reduce the amount of like physical labor and maintenance time removing snow. But currently, right now, we are compliant. There's no risk to in this building. There's no risk to public safety. There's no risk to the building falling down on anybody. The building is sound and safe to be occupied. That's what was the most important thing we wanted to confirm. So,
Okay, thank you.
Linda?
I see here in the report, Dave, that they recommend that and have an annual focus roof framing inspection. Do you plan to, is that what you plan to do?
well, so here's the thing: engineers can always give you the best option as soon as possible, right? This is what they do. They want to make sure they're covering all their I's and T's, whatever stuff. The reality is, this building is very old. Within 20-25 years, it's going to be a century-old building, right? And so they don't normally guarantee a timber frame building this long. It's just historically not normal. However, in this current state and condition, it's in really good sound shape. So talking with the engineer from Tulloch, he said, you could put in continue with your preventive maintenance plan. Now this is line by line, all the observations of what we're monitoring and what we're recommending. So now moving forward, it's a lot easier when they do an inspection because we have all the mapping, it's all scanned, it's all digital now. We can go in and by line, column by column. I can actually now open up a section of the ceiling and go and look, let's look at column 14.5. Rather than pulling the entire low E ceiling out. Now, with that being said, obviously you're gonna get a way more thorough inspection with the low E ceiling removed. That's just a natural, it's easy, everything's open, right? In the past, a lower level inspection has met the requirements and been compliant to give us a snapshot of the current state of the roof system, right? So, they recommend every year doing that. Yeah, required to remove the low E ceiling in 5 years, that's to be determined. By year 5, they might say you're good for 5 more, right? It is still cheaper in the long run to actually remove the low E ceiling at a cost of $80,000 or $90,000 every 5 to 10 years, preferably 10 years, then go and re-sandblast and paint all the steel columns at $750,000 for a building that is 75, 80 years old. It was determined it's actually more efficient if we could just rent a lift, pull out a section, wire mill, prime and paint, and just do it, a section at a time. Cost wise versus having to go and if it's not required. Right now, all the primer is still holding, right? If the primer was delaminated and a lot of the steel was exposed, it'd be a different conversation, but right now we're in good shape. So yeah, obviously they're gonna say, we have watch areas, we're monitoring, right here it says the very last paragraph. Tulloch recommends annual focus roof framing inspections which serve to observe sites of known defects, recent repairs, and other watch areas. Scheduling of the next comprehensive roof framing inspection with the low E ceiling removed should tentatively, that's why it's tentatively be set for 2031, but the next few annual reviews will help to guide that estimate. So they say this might be a good idea, but we're not saying you have to. It's kind of a recommendation, right?
Thanks.
Yeah.
Anyone else? Can I have a motion to accept the report? Richard? Garrett? Thank you. Any opposed? And that is carried. Thank you for that, David, and from a good explanation of where the Burns Arena or Minimum Arena is at. So now we move on to Providence Bay. So, Dave, can I
Yeah.
have you speak to that?
Yeah, so very similar report. They are given the same example. So lines 1 through, I believe it's 13. Let me just double check that. Yeah, through 13. It is a smaller building. But, we completed the same process. So we went through, removed the low ceiling. We left the tracking in place because it's, a cost savings measure for the reinstallation, because the trackings are there. So when the low ceiling goes back up in the fall, it's just time and labor savings, right? So it took a little more time to work around, because now you have to work around tracking that's 4 feet on center versus Mindemoy, which is wide open. But same thing. Providence Bay had less bolts that required to be tightened and torqued compared to Mindemoy. Providence Bay had less rusting or less painting required than Mindemoy. But Providence Bay had some structural concerns. So the south and west and north walls, the A-frame strapping that was installed back in the late 50s, early 60s, we determined that when we had to remove the players' benches and the spectators' benches to access the steel beams to do remediation and painting work to make sure they weren't rusting, because there was some rusting on the bases. It was determined that the benches had actually been notched out of the floor joists or the floor studs. So what happened was they actually notched it out, and so when we removed the players' benches, the entire steel siding that's being held by strapping, you just push it with your hands, just float back and forth. And so I called Jeff right away, and I called our chief building official, and Jeff wasn't able to come on site, so Raymond came actually on site, and I showed him, like, Raymond, like, look at what's happening here, like, we gotta do something, like, there's no structural integrity on all these exterior walls. Well, see, in Mindemoy, that's already been done. The east side wall had already been fully construction, properly, footing and everything, and the west wall was just mostly repaired by Mr. Shepherd. But in Providence Bay, it's the existing wall. It's a pole bar design. So it's basically one single stud and then 2 cross studs. And what happened is when they notched underneath, there was nothing supporting, and those studs were actually cemented right into the footing. So what we did is we've gone ahead and we've ordered 2x6 pressure treated. We put a new sill gasket on the bottom, and we're framed it in every wall, 24 inches on center, with insulation and plywood. So we've got the south side complete, it's done. We've just finished doing one of the players' benches tonight before I got to this meeting. And we've just put a pause to finish the north side and the west side until after the Providence Bay Fair. And then we're gonna go in and finish. So that alone is gonna increase the structural integrity of all the exterior walls. It's gonna add insulation value. So that with the new low ceiling, it's gonna help with keeping it cool in the summer for the summer fun program and the Pro Fair and that. But also, it's also going to help with any future plans for that site, whether you want to turn it into a pickleball court, whether you want to turn it into indoor badminton, tennis, whatever, right? There's lots of options. But with that being said, it is very time consuming. It's labor intensive. We go in when we have a couple days window, we go work on it, then we go and do something else. We've been painting the office a little bit here. But other than having to do those new walls, one thing that I'm happy to report back to committee is in the future repair in Prov, unlike Mindemoy's already had all the steel work done. It's already all replaced, right? In Prov, it's the original steel cladding. So we are going to get to a point in the next 3 to 5 years. It's been identified in the building condition assessment. The steel has to come off. Well, now we've already done all the inside work. It's already all framed, insulated, sheeted. Now you just put your tie part on the exterior, put your strapping, and put your steel on. So it's going to be very cost effective and easy to install because we've already done all the groundwork. There's already a wall to actually attach the steel back onto. But it's been quite kind of problem solving, learn as we go. Every time we remove a section, we determine there's something else. But it is sound. It's a sound building. We've noticed just with insulating the south wall, it's already cooler and it's a little more noise damping. It's not as like of a live room, so you can actually have a conversation close. But yeah, we're there. Our goal is to have that maintenance completed before Thanksgiving weekend. There is the farmers market, the fall market in there the weekend after, and then the low ceiling will be going in. So they'll be starting the low ceiling after Mindemoy is complete. They're going to start that project, put a pause, stay here for the day or two, and then before going all the way back to Quebec, and then continue. And that should be done hopefully before deer season is the plan. So yeah, all that in a nutshell.
Yeah. I'll make a motion if we accept this report.
Okay, Derek, can I have a second for that? Linda, thank you. Any questions, comments, or? Richard?
Just one, and of course, comes out in all of those, red marks that are here, code yellow. What does code yellow mean?
Do immediately.
Oh,
The
so
the
that,
caution is must do, so I'll refer you guys to page 26. In the report. So the very first picture, figure 35, you've got an orange flag. So that's a sag rod with a block, so what's happened is over time, the lights have sagged. And the rod has relaxed and there's no spacing. So we had to put a new block into there, right? And that's just so that there's no risk of that sag rod falling down and hitting somebody in the building, right? If you look at figure number 38, you see here that a failure of the nailing block for the 2x6 bracing has come out of column 7 S3. So what we had to do there is actually get pressure treated spruce, 2x6, and get 6-inch GRK architectural screws and cross brace and reblock. A lot of both Minimal and Prob had a lot of the original wood frame that had just relaxed, just old Ardoc nails that are just relaxed, right? So we had to put all new GRKs into them. I was talking to you guys earlier about the exterior walls. There's an example here of what they look like. Pardon me here. Oh, here we go. Page 16 and page 17. You look at page 16, you can see that this just under figure 16, discontinuous sidewall A-bracing in base 7, 8. That was a common occurrence. And if you look here again, figure 17, the A-bracing is discontinued. So to be able to access and cut out a hole to look into the bottom of those benches where the beams are, we determined that that cross bracing was completely discontinued. And as soon as those benches came out, that whole wall could just move. And so we're doing it right. We're gonna fix it and it's gonna last a long time.
well, if it's lasted all these years,
Yeah.
that's the only hole that's there, then
Yeah,
what you're doing.
that's the
now is
only
gonna-
real major identifying. Obviously, when you see here, I'll use example page 24, loose bolts, truss blockings. So that once again, you go in with your tools and you torque them down tight. We had to do it systematically because once you start tightening a section of bolts on something that's being fastened with steel plates, if you just start from one end and work to the other, by the time you get to the far end, you might actually walk the whole column up by a 1/4 inch to 1/2 inch. So you gotta be very particular how you're actually fastening bolts because you are basically realigning all the steel columns. And you gotta watch you don't affect the roof elements with all the steel that's on the roof. It's just it's just all open, right? Wonder if I can find another example.
But in all of those cases where you're tightening bolts, then any of the bolts have to be replaced or?
No,
is the
no,
tightening
no, all the hardware
do the
goes down, yeah. Yeah. We bought a lot of paint, we bought a lot of paint, a lot of primer, a lot of disposable equipment, if you hire a general contractor, for instance, they might say, well, I'm gonna come in and do your painting, it's gonna be $100,000. Well, in there, they have a 15% contingency for, their brushes, their wheels, their batteries for their drill, so we have added costs this year that are part of the capital work, but they're related to I had to buy fall arrest equipment, it was $1,500 a set to be able to use the elevator platform. Well, originally we had a quote to remove the low-E ceiling and to complete the structural sections by a contractor, and they had quoted $28,000. I think the lift combined for both arenas for the 5 months is gonna be less than $15,000. And that's for both buildings. So, there is some cost savings internally. Now, it has put a little more delay on some of the other projects we were trying to work on, but we have been able to do it in-house, almost all of it in-house. With the exception of the engineering.
Along with other things that you did.
Oh, yeah, this is one more thing, let's go fix the dock and cut some grass and try to catch up on grass this week because we're behind, so.
Any other questions for Dave? Can I have a motion to accept the report as given? Unless Richard? Rose?
Yep, I can do that.
We do that?
Yep.
Okay. All right. correspondence, there is none. 9, financials. We need a motion to accept the year-to-date expense July the 30th. Linda?
I'll second put them on the table.
Hey, Richard? And discussions, comments, questions? Richard?
Just one there, Dave, under your equipment, the 2026 Dodge Ram. Is that departed at this point? Because there wasn't any expenses, we did a budget for it in 25, but.
Yeah, the 2016, yes, that has been surplus. So it'll stay on that record until we hit 2028 and then it'll eventually disappear.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thanks.
The problem.
Anyone else? Linda?
Of the old school water use fee seems extremely high when there's nobody using it.
I don't manage that. That's a treasure question.
I can help answer that. I just haven't done the billing to the FOMOS yet. Basically, when I bill them, the revenue that I get will offset that. It typically goes down to a very low amount.
Thanks.
Anyone else? Richard?
Just while you're looking at that, when Nat was on there, I see that big credit up there for $900 on the hydro. I presume that's an adjustment entry too, is it?
FOMOS actually gave us an estimated check, and I just applied it right to there. It has to be adjusted, has to be calculated and figured out exactly where it goes. But that check they gave us covers the hydro, covers the water, covers the sewer. So I mean, it's just a combination of trying to figure out exactly which piece goes where. I haven't done it yet, but money has been applied to those 3 accounts collectively.
Anyone else?
Just one question, Dale here, Mr.
Yes, yeah.
Chair. The old school insurance. Now, in the budget of 26, we didn't have anything. And so we always had that liability for ourselves insurance. Has that gone now? Like
I'll have to look at that to see, to ensure
Okay.
everything was coded properly.
Yeah. I know they have their own liability, but we were keeping some liability just because it was our building, I think, in the past.
Yeah, I'll look into that, Dale.
Thanks, Denise.
Anyone else? Do you need a motion? Okay. Okay, so we've covered that. There's no in camera, so now we go to the point of adjournment. We're at 10 after 8, so motion to adjourn.
I'll do
I
that.
have, thank you, Rose. Second for that. Linda, thank you very much. Good night, everybody.
Thank you, everybody.
Night.
Thanks, Dave.
Mr. Chairman?